Oh, sorry, let me just take these out. Gosh, I can hear again. Okay. A little lower than the angels. The mason carried him, rigid with fright, off the brick terrace round the side of the church and behind the big yellow yew trees. Squit was nowhere to be seen. Hairy little monkey, a sheep's got less hair than you. You're a flea catcher, that's what you are. How many fleas have you got in that ticking you call hair? The abuse poured down on Gabriel as though he had stood under an open window and a bucket of refuse had been tipped out on his head. Well, I've got a mattress that needs stuffing, and that hair of yours will do instead of feathers. The mason threw Gabriel to the ground, and without letting go of his hair, and drew a knife out of his belt. No, not my hair, not my hair! Gabriel put his hands over his head and pulled away with all his might. My mother told me. I promised my mother. How could he explain? How could he tell, in the space of a single breath, the story his mother had spent so long in telling him, about Samson, the strong man, whose strength was all in his hair? Samson, he screamed, in the Bible! The mason knocked him face down to the ground and sat on his legs. Samson, he roared in a vicious, tormenting laugh. Did she tell you second Samson? Well then, I'm Delilah. No, Gabriel was not a strong man, even with his hair, but what would he be without it? The knife dragged once through the curls and made a rasping noise, and already he felt his legs powerless to move where Mason sat on them. Would he be paralysed, limp like a dead chicken? Already he could not feel his feet. He opened his mouth to scream, but all that came out was a reedy croak. Already his voice was weak. Not my hair, please, not my hair. Suddenly the yew trees gave a convulsive shiver, and someone from the audience, strolling away from the play, poked his head through the low branches. He saw the mason pull back Gabriel's head, and he saw the knife. Hey, murderer! There's a knave here cutting a lad's throat. No, said the mason, sprang to his feet. That was the last Gabriel heard. He dug his toes into the soft soil and sprinted away down the side of the church. It was like his nightmares when demons were chasing him. His feet were wading through the tar. He blamed his hair for the slowness of his legs. At the corner of the church, he took the skin off one palm, swinging round the end buttress. All the way round the church he ran, out of the brick terrace again. Then, taking his eyes off the ground, he saw his way barred through crowds of people. The audience had hardly dispersed at all, though their backs were turned now. The words kept whispering in his ears, or was that too much blood pounding in them? Broken bond, broken bond, broken bond. Every moment he expected Mason to grab him from behind, wielding his knife. He ran to the church wall, leapt up at it, failed to get a grip, and fell back to a grave. He turned back toward the church steps, thinking to take refuge in the dark building. Perhaps he could even plead sanctuary and live in the church for the rest of his life, safe from the punishment of the law, beg bread from worshippers. He would starve. Who would help a boy who broke his apprentice bond? All these thoughts, so many unbearable thoughts, were swept through his head by the river pounding blood. He found his route to the church door, barred by the stage, the cart of trestle platform, and the hill of heaven, and the monster escaping mouth of hell. Here was the space where he'd seen such things, and he thought only of saints in heaven witnessed such a holy biblical things. Part of him knew that they were only men dressed up as pretending, and yet while he watched, he had been there, in the Garden of Eden. Surely it was a magic space, up above the cartwheels, out of time, out of place, a holy space that would swallow up a running boy and dissolve him from sight. One foot on the spoke of the cartwheel, over the rim of the stage, and Gabriel sprang to the platform. It seemed to bear splintery waste of a sudden, not a garden at all. He looked up to the hill of heaven, but God was no longer perched there, and how could a boy who'd broken his bond, dare set foot in heaven anyway. Hell was the place for such a boy, such a girlish, loathsome, curl-haired, wicked, unforgivable boy. The mouth of hell gaped at him, the mechanical eyes stared at him, the throat gargled smoke. Beyond the gullet he could see the devil, what, writhing in sulphurous torment. On the far side of the church the mason strode into sight, pulling along, like a great dray horse, two unhappy-looking ewes. I tell you, I was giving the runt a haircut, that's all. He's my apprentice. His parents pay me good money to look after him. All that hair, it's not healthy. It's spoiling his eyesight. Only today he fell out of the roof. The youth let go, embarrassed, apologising to the mason. Gabriel made the sign of the cross and jumped into the mouth of hell. The smell of burning pricked his back of his nose. He wiggled into the red gullet of hell. Two hands from beyond reached into his armpits and pulled him out, though. He thought it was God.